Here's something that'll surprise you. Despite all the noise about AI revolutionizing everything, most people barely use it at all. You'd think, with all the headlines and hype, that ChatGPT and AI tools would be everywhere. But the actual numbers tell a completely different story. Gabriel Weinberg, the founder of DuckDuckGo, just dropped some sobering research that reveals the gap between what's hyped and what's real. Data shows that the vast majority of people are still not regularly using AI for anything meaningful in their daily lives. It's like everyone's talking about smartphones being the future, but most people are still using flip phones. And here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just trivia. This gap between hype and adoption is forcing the entire AI industry to rethink how they're approaching the market, who they are selling to, and whether their business models even work. The story everyone's missing is that AI adoption has hit a wall, and understanding why that wall exists is the key to predicting what happens next in the tech world. To understand the adoption crisis, we need to rewind to how we got here in the first place. Back in late 2022, ChatGPT launched, and suddenly everyone was talking about AI. Venture capital went crazy. Startups pivoted overnight. Companies like Microsoft and Google started scrambling to add AI features to everything: search, email, Office, you name it. The narrative became, AI is here, it's going to change everything. And if you're not adopting it now, you're going to be left behind. Media outlets were breathless. Business leaders issued grand proclamations. It was the hype cycle at full volume. But here's what actually happened. People tried it, they played with it, and then most of them just stopped using it. It wasn't that AI was bad or broken. It's that for the average person, using AI didn't solve a problem they actually had. Think about it from their perspective. If you're going about your day and things are working fine, why would you change your habits? You're not going to switch to a new tool just because it exists. And that friction between the promise of AI and the reality of daily life is where the adoption curve flatlined. The hype machine assumed everyone would scramble to use these tools, but human behavior just doesn't work that way. So what do the actual numbers look like? Weinberg's research digs into survey data on who's using AI, how often, and for what. And the numbers are striking. When you ask people whether they've ever used an AI tool like ChatGPT, a decent chunk say yes, maybe 40 or 50% in developed countries. But that's the trap right there. Using it once doesn't mean you actually use it. When you dig deeper and ask, do you use AI tools regularly? Like multiple times a week, the number drops dramatically. We're talking single digits in some cases. And when you ask people to name the AI tools they actually use in their daily workflow, most can't. Or they name something like spell check, which technically uses AI but doesn't feel like an AI tool to them. The reality is that for the overwhelming majority of people, AI is still invisible. And not in the cool way, in the way where they genuinely haven't integrated it into their lives at all. There are pockets of adoption, sure. Tech workers use it constantly. Some designers and writers have built their workflows around it. But we are talking maybe 2 to 5% of the population actually using AI as a core part of their day. That's not a revolution. That's not even widespread. That's a niche product used by enthusiasts and professionals. And that fundamental mismatch between the hype cycle and actual behavior is reshaping how investors and companies are thinking about this entire sector. So if most people aren't using AI, who actually is? Let's look at the real adoption stories. First, there's the professional segment: software developers, data scientists, designers. These are people whose jobs are about creating or analyzing, and AI tools genuinely save them time. A developer using GitHub Copilot can write code faster. An AI copywriting tool can help a marketer draft emails. For these folks, adoption is real and growing. Then there's search. Google and Bing both integrated AI summaries into search results. But here's the thing: most users don't care that it's AI. They just want answers same as before. They're not adopting AI as a thing. They're using a search engine that happens to have AI in it. That's a crucial distinction. You've also got customer service bots. Lots of companies deployed AI chatbots to handle support tickets. Did people love it? Not really. They still prefer talking to humans. But the companies love it because it cuts costs. And then there's content creation, video generators, image tools, writing assistants. Some creators have adopted these heavily, but the total addressable market, still pretty small. You're looking at professional creators and businesses, not everyday people. The common thread across all these examples is that adoption happened in specific, narrow use cases where AI solved a genuine problem, usually a business problem or a professional time saver. It didn't happen in the broad consumer market, where the problems AI solves are often problems people didn't know they had. Let's put this in perspective with a simple comparison. When ChatGPT launched, the hype suggested we were at an inflection point where AI adoption would accelerate exponentially. That's how the tech industry talks about breakthroughs. They point to adoption curves that go up and to the right forever. But what actually happened? The adoption curve went up sharply in early 2023, everyone trying it out, and then it just flattened. It reminds you of what happened with virtual reality. VR headsets were going to revolutionize entertainment, gaming, and work. Companies poured billions into it. The hype was real, but adoption plateaued because, again, the value proposition wasn't compelling enough for most people to change their behavior. Or think about crypto, same pattern. Revolutionary technology, massive hype, but actual daily usage by regular people, still surprisingly low. Here's what's fascinating though, the AI hype is even bigger than those previous cycles, and yet the adoption plateau is just as real. It suggests that hype generation and actual product adoption are two almost completely separate phenomena. You can have the biggest, loudest hype cycle in tech history and still fail to get mainstream adoption. That's the lesson here. The companies that thrive won't be the ones with the loudest marketing. They'll be the ones that solve a real problem well enough that people actually want to change their behavior. And for most of them, we are still not there yet. So why does this adoption gap matter? It's rewriting the entire tech industry's playbook. First, it's forcing a reality check on valuations. Companies raised ridiculous amounts of funding based on AI hype. Investors priced in massive adoption curves that would make billions of people paying customers. But if adoption is actually slow and concentrated in narrow use cases, those valuations make no sense. You're seeing that reflected in the market already. Some AI startups are struggling to find customers, and bigger tech companies are realizing their AI bets might not pay off the way they hoped. Second, it's exposing a fundamental problem. Nobody's figured out the right product yet. We have the underlying AI technology. It works. But we haven't translated that technology into something compelling enough that billions of people want to use every day. That's a product problem, not a tech problem, and product problems are hard to solve. It's also changing how big tech is approaching AI. Instead of betting everything on a consumer product that doesn't exist yet, companies like Google and Microsoft are quietly embedding AI into products people already use like search, email, and office software. It's not flashy. It doesn't generate hype. But it's a more realistic path to adoption because it meets people where they already are, rather than demanding they change their behavior for something new. This change reveals something important about the future of AI. It won't be a separate thing that people go out and buy. It'll be invisible, embedded in existing tools, and most people won't really think of it as AI at all. If you're trying to understand what's coming next in AI, here's how to think about adoption. Focus on actual behavior, not hype. When you're evaluating whether an AI tool is going to matter, don't listen to the press releases or the venture capital enthusiasm. Instead, ask yourself, does this solve a specific problem that people face right now? Is the friction low enough that they'll actually change their behavior? Are there alternatives that already work okay? And is AI dramatically better? Those are your real gates. Second, pay attention to the difference between awareness and adoption. Everyone's heard of ChatGPT. Awareness is huge, but awareness doesn't mean people are using it. Adoption is the harder metric. It's the gap between I know what this is and I use this every day. That gap is enormous right now. Third, watch where adoption actually concentrates. It's not in broad consumer products. It's in professional tools, in B2B software, and in embedded features in existing products. That's where real adoption is happening. If someone pitches you an AI company targeting everyday consumers with a brand new product category, be skeptical. That's where the hype lives, not adoption. Finally, understand that hype and adoption cycles follow different patterns. Hype can grow exponentially forever. It's just narrative and excitement. But adoption is constrained by human behavior, by the friction of change, by the fact that people's lives are already working okay. When you see a gap between hype and adoption, that gap is your signal. That's where the truth lies. Here's what to take away from all this. The AI revolution is real, but it's nothing like what the headlines promised. It's not about everyone using AI for everything. It's about AI becoming invisible, embedded in tools you already use, solving specific professional problems, and slowly shifting how some industries work. The broader consumer story, that part is still completely open. We haven't figured that out yet. For you personally, it means don't feel left behind if you're not using ChatGPT daily. Most people aren't. And the tools that matter most will be the ones that solve your actual problems, not the ones with the loudest marketing. For companies and investors, this research signals a reality check. The gold rush narrative is over. Now it's about finding real product-market fit in specific niches rather than betting on the next consumer tech revolution. And for the tech industry as a whole, this is a reminder of a pattern that repeats every few years. Hype, reality check, and then slow, quiet progress by the companies that actually solve real problems. The AI adoption gap isn't a failure of AI technology. It's a normal part of how technology actually enters the world slowly, through narrow use cases first, reaching mass adoption only if it genuinely makes life better. That's the story Gabriel Weinberg's research is telling us. Follow for daily AI news that cuts through the hype and gives you what actually matters.